Christianity in China is a story of quiet, persistent growth. Millions of people across the country identify as Christians, making it one of the nation's fastest-growing faiths. They come from all walks of life, from farmers in rural villages to young professionals in bustling cities like Beijing and Shanghai. For these believers, faith offers a sense of community, spiritual meaning, and moral guidance in a rapidly changing society. They gather to pray, sing hymns, and study the Bible, seeking a connection to something larger than their daily lives. This spiritual quest has led many to embrace a faith that has deep roots, but also faces modern challenges. These believers worship in two very different kinds of spaces. Some attend official, government-sanctioned churches, known as Three Self-Patriotic Movement churches. These institutions are registered with the state and operate under its supervision, which means they must follow government rules and promote state ideology. However, a far larger number of Christians choose to worship in what are called house churches. These are independent, unregistered congregations that meet in private homes, rented office spaces, or other unofficial locations. They operate outside of government control, which allows them more freedom in their worship, but also makes them vulnerable to state interference. In recent years, the space for both types of churches has been shrinking dramatically. For decades, many house churches were tolerated by local authorities as long as they remained small and avoided political activity. Believers could gather with a sense of relative safety, building vibrant communities of faith away from the state's watchful eye. This informal understanding allowed Christianity to flourish underground. But that era of quiet tolerance has come to a definitive end. The government now sees these independent religious groups as a potential challenge to its authority and has begun a systematic campaign to bring them under its absolute control. This shift has created a climate of fear and uncertainty for millions of Christians. The line between what is permitted and what is forbidden has become dangerously blurred. A church that was once tolerated might suddenly be declared illegal. A pastor who led a congregation for years could be arrested without warning. The simple act of gathering to pray has become a risk. This new reality is forcing believers to make difficult choices between their faith and their safety, as the government's campaign to control religious life intensifies across the country. Over the past 2 years, the Chinese government has intensified its crackdown on Christianity with alarming speed and severity. This is not a random series of events, but a coordinated, nationwide campaign. Authorities have shut down thousands of churches, targeting both large, well-known congregations and small local house churches. During 2024 alone, official reports documented the closure of over 2,000 house churches and the demolition of at least 500 church buildings, some of which were even state-approved. Leaders and members are frequently detained, interrogated, and sentenced to prison on charges that redefine religious activity as criminal behavior. A clear example of this escalation occurred in October 2025 with the crackdown on Zion Church, one of China's most prominent house church networks. In a coordinated operation spanning 7 cities, authorities arrested nearly 30 pastors and members. The church's founder, Pastor Ezra Jin Mingri, was detained and accused of illegal use of information networks, a charge often used to silence online dissent. This incident sent a chilling message to other independent congregations. No church, no matter its size or reputation, is safe from the government's reach. The aim is to dismantle these independent religious networks entirely. The legal system has been weaponized to persecute church leaders. Instead of directly charging them for their faith, authorities are increasingly using secular laws. Pastors are being accused of fraud for collecting tithes and offerings, a standard practice in churches worldwide. They are also charged with illegal business operations for printing religious materials or Bibles. These tactics allow the government to frame its religious persecution as a legitimate fight against common crime. In 2025, members of the Linfen Golden Lampstand Church were sentenced on such fraud charges, demonstrating how normal church functions are being criminalized. This campaign affects all Christian denominations, including those in the Catholic Church. Underground Catholic bishops and priests who refuse to join the state-controlled Chinese Patriotic Catholic Association face constant harassment and detention. Despite a 2018 agreement between the Vatican and Beijing, the persecution has only worsened. Bishops like Peter Shao Zhumin have been detained multiple times, while others have been held in secret locations for years. Even children are targeted. New rules strictly prohibit anyone under 18 from entering a church or receiving any form of religious education, cutting off faith from the next generation. The Chinese government is using advanced technology to create a digital panopticon for monitoring religious life. Cities and towns are now blanketed with surveillance cameras, many equipped with sophisticated facial recognition software. In 2024, over 40,000 new cameras were reportedly installed specifically to monitor religious venues. These devices are placed inside and outside churches, tracking everyone who enters and exits. This constant surveillance discourages attendance and creates an atmosphere of pervasive fear, as believers know their every move is being recorded by the state. The goal is to make private worship impossible. The internet, once a vital space for religious communities to connect and share information, has been turned into another tool of state control. In March 2022, the government introduced strict regulations banning any unauthorized online religious content. These rules, which have been aggressively enforced since 2023, prohibit everything from live-streamed sermons and online Bible studies to the simple sharing of religious articles. A new online code of conduct for religious professionals, issued in September 2025, further tightens these restrictions, effectively erasing independent religious voices from the digital world and isolating believers from one another. Beyond surveillance, the government is engaged in a campaign of ideological control called sinicization. This policy demands that all religions must conform to the Communist Party's socialist values and Chinese culture as defined by the state. In practice, this means churches are forced to display portraits of President Xi Jinping, fly the national flag, and sing patriotic songs during services. Clergy must attend political indoctrination sessions where they are taught to promote party loyalty above their faith. There are even reports of the government altering the text of the Bible to make its teachings compatible with socialist ideology. Church leaders who resist this control face severe consequences. Pastors who refuse to join the official church or stop their online activities are arrested and imprisoned. Pastor Wang Yi of the Chengdu Early Rain Covenant Church remains in prison on a 9-year sentence from 2019 for his refusal to submit. Others, like Pastor Ezra Jin, are charged with new crimes related to online activity. This systematic punishment of dissent is designed to make an example of defiant leaders and pressure other congregations to fall in line, ensuring that no organized religious activity exists outside the party's absolute authority. The escalating crackdown has not gone unnoticed by the international community. Human rights organizations, government bodies, and religious freedom advocates around the world are raising the alarm. Groups like Human Rights Watch, China Aid, and Open Doors regularly publish detailed reports documenting church demolitions, arrests, and the use of surveillance technology. Following the mass arrests at Zion Church in October 2025, these organizations immediately called for the release of the detained members and urged foreign governments to condemn China's actions, highlighting the systematic violation of fundamental human rights. Governments in North America and Europe have also voiced their concerns. The United States State Department has repeatedly designated China as a country of particular concern for its severe violations of religious freedom. This designation, reaffirmed in July 2024, acknowledges the gravity of the situation and opens the door for potential diplomatic actions. International summits and forums on religious freedom frequently feature sessions dedicated to the worsening conditions in China, where survivors share their testimonies and experts call for a more coordinated and robust international response to hold Beijing accountable for its actions. The situation in China poses a profound challenge to the universal principle of religious freedom. This right, enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, asserts that every individual has the freedom to believe, worship, and share their faith without fear of government interference. China's campaign to control and suppress Christianity is a direct assault on this core principle. It suggests a future where the state has the power to define what people can believe and how they can express their spirituality, a reality that concerns not only Christians, but all who value human liberty. Ultimately, the struggle of Christians in China is a bellwether for religious freedom globally. How the world responds to this crisis will have far-reaching implications. If a major global power can successfully crush independent religious communities with impunity, it sets a dangerous precedent for other authoritarian regimes. Supporting the rights of believers in China is therefore not just about defending one group in one country. It is about upholding the fundamental idea that faith is a matter of personal conscience, not state control, and that every person deserves the freedom to seek spiritual truth without persecution.